It's that time of the year again. What's going on? It's Epic Footnote. It's Matt.
And it's Zach.
This is our end of year episode. Can you believe 2022 is over already?
How? Didn't we just start the year?
It feels like it.
Jeez Louise.
I mean, with the way that I guess 2020 was and then 2021, it felt like they went on forever. This year, I guess because we could finally do things, it flew.
And boy, did we do things.
I feel like this is probably one of those years where we put out a lot of album reviews.
And we thank you for listening to every single one.
And if you didn't listen to every single one, well, now's your chance to go back and listen to them.
Listen on any streaming platform you can imagine, including this YouTube channel.
So we, every year, if you haven't been with us for a long time, first of all, welcome. Year we like to wrap up like everybody else does, where we give our favorites of the year. And we've been doing this now for, what is it, 4 years?
Yes,
3 years?
Good. No, you had it right the first time. It's been 4 years since we launched this little ditty of a podcast. And holy moly, do you feel old? Because I feel old.
I do. Considering I was in my mid-30s and now I'm in my late 30s.
I have kids now. Halfway through us making this podcast, I produced kids.
Just this episode alone.
Just this episode. I've been very busy. My poor wife. But you know who else has been keeping busy? Every freaking musician in the world. I mean, so many bands came back at full force with both tours, with albums, with music, and just activity. Merchandising. To the point that it's just like, holy crap, all these albums. There's even a few albums that, as we were reviewing, we were like, wait, their last album? I'm looking at you, Rammstein. Going from radio silent to suddenly we're reviewing albums from our favorite artists. It was a weird but cool feeling at the same time. And of course, that led to a lot of great music. So much so that you're going to probably hear us have a hard time naming even just 5 of our favorite albums from this past year. Buckle up. We're going to be talking a lot about honorable mentions and even a few disappointing albums as well. But before we proceed with all that fun stuff, let's get to the main objective here, to share our 5 favorite albums of 2022.
And if you've been with us for a while and you've listened to our Pick 3 episodes, we normally come to a consensus on a top 3 list. However, this is not that show. This is just us naming our favorite albums, because we could be here for a very long time if we tried to come to a final 5 list. We're just naming our favorites and moving on.
With that said, I think last year we had at least 3 of the same favorite albums.
Yeah, and I think this year we're going to be very different.
Oh, 100% different. So with that said, Matt, would you like to go first and share your 5 favorite albums of 2022?
Sure. So let's get this one right off the list, because everybody agrees that they are a great band. There's no doubt about it. Everybody who you talk to, you just know that whenever you mention the name Clutch, you're going to get positive feedback, positive reviews, extreme fandom. And Sunrise Over Slaughter Beach was a great album. Just so much great, just rock and roll in Clutch doing Clutch things. If you haven't listened to it yet, honestly, you have to. There's just no other way about it. It's Clutch. 9 times out of 10 is going to knock it out of the park, and he did it again on Sunrise Over Slaughter Beach.
Wow. And if you want to hear more of what we think of the album, listen to our episode 2 Minutes Review, where we review that album to a T.
So the second album, I'm going to go with a bit of a dark horse on this one. There was an album that we reviewed at the beginning of this year, and I can't believe that it came out at the beginning of 2022 because it's been so damn long. And going back, trying to figure out this list, I played the album again, and I was captured the same way as I was the first time I heard it. And I also had a little bit more feels about the album just because of what the album is. It is a mix of down-home Delta blues mixed with black metal. Let me tell you, if you haven't heard of Zeal and Ardor before, this is an album that you have to listen to. I'm going to make a huge recommendation because I still was captured by a couple of their songs the exact same way that I was captured the very first time I heard them. And you need to absolutely listen to Hold Your Head Low, Feed the Machine. You need to listen to Erase, Golden Liar. There's so many good songs on this album, and I think that it was something special to come out of 2022.
Side note, without spoiling too much of my list, I am so happy to hear you say this. I feel kind of proud because I feel like I introduced you to this band, dare I say. So
You did,
I'm putting a huge check mark in the win box for me on this one. But please proceed.
So also you can thank a little video game known as Red Dead Redemption 2 also be. I've mentioned this game a whole bunch of times, but
do we owe them money at this point?
Maybe.
For the amount of times you've referenced them.
But
how's YouTube not flagged us?
It's the feeling of some of their songs could have fit so perfectly into that game, especially the final scene when Arthur is riding back, and if you've played the game, you understand it. That D'Angelo song that they have in the game, Unshaken, I believe the name of it is. It's such a haunting song, and if you discovered that song and love that song, you are going to love the feel of some of these songs on Zeal and Ardor. But just be aware that there's black metal in there too, so it's going to get crazy.
And a reminder, listen to our 2 minutes to review episode where we reviewed that album as well on any stream platform you can imagine.
Next is going to be probably the biggest surprise of 2022. I was ready, and I said this in the episode, I was ready to walk in and give this album a 2-word review, shit sandwich, and be done with it. I didn't want to review the latest album from Lamb of God because of the train wreck that their previous album was. I'm glad that we reviewed it because it is a band on an album having fun and doing a very, very good job of making you feel not only that they're having fun in the studio, but they believe what they're doing. It feels like a completely different band than the album that they put out. I believe it was like at the beginning of 2020, I think. Whenever we did that train wreck.
No, that was June of 2020.
Okay, so mid 2020.
It felt like the beginning of 2020 because
It was
that's when that year. Let's just move on from that
year. Yeah. But that whole train wreck gave me such a sour taste for Lamb of God. But coming back with Omens, the new one, such a good album. So that is number 3. Number 4 is, in my mind, an album that I knew that I was going to like even before it came out. But when I heard it, I was completely validated, at least in my mind. I was validated in loving the new one from Muse, Will of the People, and it's been one of the albums that I've had on repeat. Not repeat, but in a playlist, and it's been in there pretty heavy since it came out. And every time I hear a song from it, I just have a smile. And especially with it being, Halloween, it being a little bit ago, and hearing that song, You Make Me Feel Like It's Halloween, and actually sounding like it's like an electronic horror song. It was really cool. I love it. Zach is nodding his head in disapproval, but he's wrong.
Without going too down the rabbit hole and getting sidetracked, listen to our review, 2 minutes of review episode on this, and you'll understand why my opinion differs from Matt on this. But please continue.
Because he's wrong, but that's besides the point.
So
that's number 4. And the last one is, I don't even know how to classify this last one. It's so out there that even the fans of the band were like, what the hell am I listening to? What the hell is this? The Mars Volta came out with a self-titled album this year that is completely off the reservation. And once again, Zach is giving me this look.
Well,
but
no, this is more of a surprise one. I'm not like Muse. I'm like, oh, come on. This one, I'm like, huh, really?
The reason why is not only is it so out there for the Mars Volta, but simply because this album I can listen to and just kind of not necessarily zone out to it, but I can listen to it and I can get through the album and I can be like, wow, that was a really good album. And then I could put it on again like the next day and get through the album. It's like, damn, that was good. But then every time I listen to it, I pick up something different. And when we review the album, I remember saying that this was almost kind of like a soft rock album that you could almost give to like a soccer mom and she'd be cool with listening to it. Not like the Mars Volta from the past where you have to be like extremely intently listening to this thing and love out their music. This is the Mars Volta doing the most ridiculous thing the Mars Volta could do, which is doing like a soft rock album and it being very progressive sounding in its simplicity and in its shortness. And it's just a very unique experience that you're not going to get from very many, if any, other bands out there. So for those reasons alone, I had to put this on my top 5 list of 2022. So in no particular order, we have Clutch's Sunrise Over Slaughter Beach, Zeal and Ardor, Lamb of God's Omen, Muse's Will of the People, and Mars Volta's self-titled album.
If I may add, I know I've kind of sprinkled it in while you were speaking, but for the record, all 5 albums that you named, we have reviewed as part of our episodes of 2 Minutes to Review. Listen to any streaming platform you can imagine at Epic Footnote. There's only 2 albums I'm surprised by your picks. Well, I'm really pleased by Zeal and Ardor. I'm proud of myself that you picked that one. I'm surprised that you picked Clutch because I felt like it seems like that album grew on you a little bit more since we reviewed it.
Clutch is Clutch. I mean, they're just Clutch. I mean,
and same goes for Mars Volta. I'm surprised you picked that because that's another one I feel like we both, maybe it was just at the time we were all kind of taken aback by what the heck this was, but clearly that grew on you.
I remember liking Mars Volta when we reviewed it. Clutch, and I even said it in the review, like it's just toe tapping good music. Like I don't remember the last time I was just in the music so much I was tapping my foot throughout the entire album. And this one really kind of did that for me.
Wow. All right. Well, then, so all of your albums we reviewed in the past, this is going to shock you, Matt.
Uh-oh.
Only one album on my 5 favorite albums list we actually reviewed this past year.
Uh-oh.
And with, at the expense of kind of basically revealing the cards in my hand, let me get right into it. With the album that we did review together already, Zeal and Ardor. This might be, while the rest of my list is not in order, this might be the #1 album of the year for me. I mean, it's just so incredible of an album. It's a crime it hasn't taken off a little bit more. I mean, it's gotten rave reviews and definitely the fans love it, but like I listened to this album and I'm like, holy crap, this is a game changer of an album. The way that he blends Delta blues with black metal so seamlessly, it should not work. It's just a beautiful, incredible album that, and you're starting to name which songs to listen to. I would say, no, you listen to the album from front to back and you will thank me later. It is probably hands down the best extreme album of 2022. And it's just such a great freaking album that I can't rave more about it. Listen to our review of it because I think we do a better job capturing how special of an album this is than I can right now. But my God, Zeal and Ardor self-titled album, probably the best album of 2022, for me at least. So, got that out of the way. The second album on my list is from a little band from Australia. We've discussed this band actually on some past favorite albums of the year episodes, and I even did a What's Spinning episode on 2 of their albums, of their many albums. But King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, they are such an anomaly. Everything about this band should not work because they literally can release half a dozen albums within the span of months. And not only does each album sound slightly different, but it sounds so fresh and so freaking good. It doesn't sound like it's a band half-assing it. It sounds as if it's a band that literally spent years mastering this sound, and yet it was album number 18 of the past 2 years. Like, they just are constantly churning out material that somehow just shows a different shade and a side of them. And it's just so freaking enjoyable. They pull it off. I say this knowing that, like, as we're talking right now, they're probably in the midst of releasing another album. They've already released at least 3 albums in 2022, if not more. But the album I want to go with is actually their first double album, Omnium Gatherum. And the reason why I'm choosing this out of all the albums this year that they've released, as I talked about, like, each album almost covers a different style of music. This double album captures all their sounds and puts it into one. It's almost a great way to be like, hey, you want to know what King Gizzard is? This is the best chance you're going to get to really understand how diverse and how crazy and how brilliant they are. At one point, they sound like the Grateful Dead. The next minute, they sound like the Beastie Boys. The next minute, they sound like Sepultura. The next minute, they sound like The Who. It's just all over the place, and yet cohesive and together, and it's just, it should not work. Nothing about King Gizzard should work. Nothing about Omnium Gatherum should work, and yet it so freaking does, and it's so enjoyable and so great. And I would even to this day say, yeah, go down the rabbit hole and listen to King Gizzard, but this album is probably a great first step to really understanding what this band is all about. So, my second pick, Omnium Gatherum from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Third album. So I kind of hinted at this earlier, at how this band's previous album that we reviewed, at first we were like, it's good, but it's a little forgettable. And then as each month went on, I'm like, holy shoot, how am I continuously listening to this? These songs are great. What was I thinking initially? Here's where we're at. Here's the contrast to this. Almost immediately, I was blown away and went, wow. Who am I talking about, you're asking? I'm talking about Alter Bridge and their new album, Pawns and Kings. Alter Bridge has always been good, and they've always did a great job of crossing the fine line between radio-friendly hard rock and technical progressive hard rock. And this album, I really feel like they took it a step further. I mean, it's almost, there's some songs on here that really feel like as if it could be a modern Dio era of Black Sabbath. I'll go ahead and just say this right now. Silver Tongue is probably the best hard rock song of 2022. Miles Kennedy's vocals are incredible throughout the album, but even that song specifically. I mean, Mark's guitar work, I mean, he's always been an underrated guitar player. We discussed that numerous times over the years and on multiple episodes, but my God, he steps it up. There's more aggression to these songs, but there's almost more playful, theatrical aspects to some of these songs too. It's almost, some points I almost feel like I'm witnessing an operatic kind of battle between good and evil. And I just freaking love it. It's just a really great freaking hard rock album. Maybe even the best hard rock album of 2022. If you've ever been on the fence of Alter Bridge, this album I think will really push you over into Team Alter Bridge all the way. I was hesitant to really give it a chance, to be completely honest, and I'm so glad I did, because it's a great, fun hard rock album. So, third pick, Alter Bridge's Pawns and Kings. My fourth one, this one's going to include a little bit of a history lesson. So there's this singer named Alice Merton. She kind of rose to fame a few years ago with this dance pop song called Roots. But this year, she released a alt pop gem of an album called Sides. One of the singles, Same Team, got a lot of airplay on SiriusXM's Alt Nation. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool song. And I started to listen to it, and it's one of those albums that, like, the first half of it, I'm like, oh my God, this could be a single. Oh my God, this can be a single. It's just a great alt pop album. And to me, the way I would describe Alice, it's, I mean, you know how much I love St. Vincent. I would say if St. Vincent spent more time trying to write heartfelt songs like Bruce Springsteen and less experimental stuff like David Byrne, you would get Alice Merton and you'd get her album Sides. I think it's a crime that it hasn't gotten more attention. If you like dark pop, if you like alternative kind of music, listen to Alice Merton's Sides. So that's my fourth pick. Now my fifth pick. I keep going back and forth. So Matt, you're going to kill me about this.
As you do.
I'm going with a tie for my fifth slot.
Shocker.
I know. So the first one, and the reason why I'm torn is because this particular album, it's so new that part of me feels guilty for even really kind of giving it love, but I kind of knew the second they even announced it, I'd probably fall in love with it. And then listening to the first two songs that they released off it just confirmed, yeah, this is amazing. And of course I fell in love with the rest of the album, but it's a little band called White Lung. I fell in love with White Lung back in 2016 with their album Paradise. They are just the most refreshing sounding punk band out there. It's something about their guitar tone and their adrenaline is just, it's so unique sounding and just so uplifting. I mean, it's almost like elements of the Misfits, but with like just weird guitar work. It's almost as if The Edge joined a straightforward hardcore punk band. I've been dying for them to release a follow-up album, to the point that when they announced, yeah, we're releasing a new album, I was like, yes, finally. And then they broke my heart because they then announced that this is actually their last album. They are coming back, but just they're saying goodbye to their last album. And it's kind of like, no, please stay, come back. But unfortunately, life has just kind of gotten in the way. A lot of things delay the album, both the singer's pregnancy and family, of course, the pandemic. As sad as I am that Premonition is their last album, it's a hell of a way to say goodbye. So if you just like really personal sounding, in your face punk, you got to give the Vanguard a try. So White Lung's Premonition, that's tied for fifth place. What album is it tied with, you're asking, Matt? I'm going to shock you with this. I don't think you're going to expect me to say this, but
It's ABBA.
No, it's not. Although it's not too far away from that, actually.
Ace of Base released a new album?
So, Matt, I'm a sucker for pop.
Yeah.
And even some mainstream pop. But I definitely feel like over the past few years, mainstream pop has missed a sense of joy and vibrancy that good pop should have. So, which is why I was so happy that not only did this particular artist capture that joy and vibrance, but really just nailed it out of the park and really took me by surprise of how special of an album she released. And that's kind of a pun because the name of the album is special, and it's by none other than Lizzo. I've always appreciated Lizzo. I always loved what she's done, but I was really not prepared to be as in love with her new album Special as it is. It really is just a fun, special pop album. I mean, literally, as I'm talking right now, I'm having the song To Be Loved, Am I Ready stuck in my head. It is just got a great bounce to it, great energy to it. And then, it's got a good blend of like some more personal songs on there, but without losing its sense of vibrancy. I mean, it's got a song called Coldplay, kind of talking about love and how, they listen to Coldplay, and it made me actually care about Coldplay for the first time in years. It's an album that definitely has retro influences without sounding retro. It's definitely got influences from the 80s, but still sounds modern. It's the pop album, both lyrically and sound-wise, that we freaking need today in such a dark world. So much to my surprise, Lizzo released one of my favorite albums of 2022. So to recap, Zeal and Ardor's self-titled album, King Gizzard and Lizard Wizards, Omnium, Gatherum, Alter Bridges, Pawn and Kings, Alice Merton's Sides, and then for tied fifth place, White Lung's Premonition and Lizzo's Special.
That's 6.
No, 5.5. 5.5. You can do ties. I'm calling it a tied.
Okay.
Yeah. But then, fair warning, if we're going to go down the road of honorary mentions, there was a lot of good freaking albums that came out.
There were.
I mean, even the ones that pretty much every album that you picked that wasn't Zeal and Ardor, I would consider extreme honorary mentions. I mean, I loved all those. I mean, I appreciated Mars Volta. I hated Muse's new album, but
Because you're
Clutch.
wrong.
No, because I'm very right, and you need to get your ears checked. I loved Lamb of God's new album, Omens, and I loved Clutch's new album, Sunrise at Slaughter Beach. Both albums, I completely agree with you, did a great job of kind of reinvigorating them. They both kind of released duds previously, and this album kind of brought back what made them both so great. And then, of course, if we're going down the rabbit hole again, I mean, I loved Megadeth's new album. I loved Coheed's new album. Coheed's new album grew on me. There's still some iffy stuff on it. I know you didn't like The Interrupters in the Wild, but I still was taken aback at how much I enjoyed it. And then there's even albums that we didn't review, like Devin Townsend released another solo album. Lightwork was very enjoyable. I don't know, Matt, if you've cared about Silver Sun Pickups in a long time, but I was not prepared for how much I enjoyed their album Physical Thrills. It was really enjoyable. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but yeah, it was a pretty good year. I mean, what do you have any other honorary mentions you'd want to?
I do. The only reason why Alter Bridge's Pawns and Kings isn't in my top 5 list of the best is because I still haven't gotten through the whole album. So that's on me. So
yeah, get on it.
First off, you're wrong about Silver Tongue. It is not, because This Is War is the best song of 2022. I mean,
no. I mean, that's a great song,
yes.
but Silver, I'm sticking to my pick of Silver Tongue. It sounds like you need to listen to the rest of the album, and because it sounds like that would have been / I'm actually shocked it's not on your top 5.
Well, right. I like I said, I've been slacking, but I only got to see. Now I got to Stay and got through Sin After Sin, and when Mark kind of came in on some vocals, I'm like, that's what's been missing from this album so far is Mark on vocals. And literally Stay, Mark is on the entire song. It's like, okay, they kind of put that to rest. But so far from what I've heard, I loved everything about that album. And I love the way that their vocals play off of each other, because Miles has got that crisp high and Mark is kind of that minor key low voice, and it just works so well together. So I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of Pawns and Kings. Another album that neither one of us mentioned up until this point, Ghosts Imperia, was a good album. I won't say it was great. It was good.
But I was actually going to kind of save that for when we get to the disappointment discussion. Okay. But we can bring this up now because it was good, but I still stand by how it was missing something.
I see it's grown on me a little bit more. I don't think it was a disappointment. I think that it was still a little bit more on the side of they tried something new and something different. And when I hear the songs that we kind of criticized sounding too much like the 80s, because let's face it, there's a lot of 80s on this album. Mm-hmm. And a song like, I believe it was on Respite on the Spitalfields, where it sounded like a direct ripoff of Whitesnake's Still of the Night. I still think that songs like Darkness at the Heart of My Love, Call Me Little Sunshine, Spillways, and Kassarian really bring the album up. And I can kind of overlook how different it is, but it still feels like a good Ghost album. So I want to throw it in the honorary mentions. You can throw it in your disappointments, because
I mean, we can. I don't know if we're going to throw it in either way, but yeah, I love Ghost, and it kind of was, to me, not that it let me down. I just felt like I was missing something still. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you had another honorary mention before I named a million other.
This one might be a little bit of a surprise to you, but The Weeknd's Dawn FM.
No, it's not. And actually, I had it on my list as well. God, it's been almost a year since we reviewed that. That was one of the first. That was, I think, the first
probably
album we reviewed of this year.
And this one has really grown on me. A lot of places are saying that this is one of the best of the year. I see it as an important album. I see it also as kind of like an homage to radio. And I used to be in radio, so it kind of got me in the feels a little bit. So I have to put it on this list.
Okay. One album, and we can ping pong, go back and forth. One album that took me by surprise was, I mean, she's an artist that's getting a lot of buzz for various reasons, but Willow, or you might know her as Willow Smith, she released basically the best album that Paramore never released, Coping Mechanism. I know that some people loved and some people hated her performance on SNL. I was in the bucket of loved. I think it's really impressive. Her vocals and guitar playing are very cool and very good. And I thought some of the songs of this album, again, definitely in the emo pop punk phase or punk world, but I didn't feel like it didn't feel forced. It felt like good songs and it felt genuine. So I was really impressed by Willow Smith and her album. And she's just actually really talented in general. I also really enjoyed. Are you familiar, Matt, with the band Halo Effect?
I've heard of them. I haven't heard
It's
anything by them.
basically it's a supergroup in a way, but it's containing pretty much most, if not all, of the former members of In Flames, as well as Michael from Dark Tranquillity. This album in particular got me to kind of go back and listen to Dark Tranquillity and go, man, I really should have been listening to this band sooner than I am already. They're phenomenal. But Halo Effect is almost, if In Flames kind of stuck to being a little bit more melodic death metal, then kind of the route they've gone down, however you want to describe that. It's a great Gothenburg death metal supergroup, and it shouldn't sound as good as it does, and it really does. It's an enjoyable melodic death metal album. So I was really impressed with Halo Effect. So Matt, if we think of any other honorary mentions, we can bring it up, but I think it's time to get a little bit of a downer mode going on.
Yep.
I think it's time to now turn to the albums that not necessarily that we hated, but left us disappointed or leaving or wanting more. And before we get down this rabbit hole, I think let's just go ahead and save us some breath and time from talking about both Ozzy Osbourne and Red Hot Chili Peppers albums this year.
Yep.
Because, a little plug here, we covered both of their albums in depth during past episodes of Am I Missing Something? So if you want to understand why we were very disappointed in Ozzy's Patient Number 9, as well as Red Hot Chili Peppers, both Unlimited Love and Return of the Dream Canteen, go ahead and listen to those on any streaming platform of your choosing. So with that in mind, Matt, what would you say were some of the most disappointing albums of 2022?
I would have to go with, and I know this is not the popular opinion, but at least for me, Megadeth's album was one of them.
I had a feeling you're going to say that, even though that was going to be an honorary. I think I mentioned that was going to be an honorary mention for me, but
Yep.
I still don't understand what you didn't like about that.
There was a lot that I felt for Megadeth. Let's say it this way. For Megadeth, it felt like they could do more, and it felt like they rushed certain aspects, especially the production value on certain songs, and the way that certain songs felt like they were kind of jammed together. There's just something that didn't rub me right about the album from the get-go, and we did a review on it. You can hear it. So go back, and if you're really curious as to why I don't like this as much, and you can go in there with the rest of the Megadeth fans and tell me that I'm absolutely out of my mind because I don't like the album, and this is Megadeth sounding the best Megadeth ever it has, and blah, 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 blah. Go ahead. There's lots of comments on there. Please add more in there and tell me how bad of a music person I am because I don't like the new Megadeth. So for you, here, let's ping pong back and forth here. For you, what's first on your disappointment list?
I'll save my horse spiel about Muse because we already talked about how much I hated that album.
And you're wrong.
And I'm 100% right. I'll talk about one album first because I have a few. Because I feel like this year, for as much good music as there's a lot kind of that left me wanting more. So the first one that I think really disappointed me was, and you're going to laugh, Panic at the Disco's Viva Las Vengeance. I have been very vocal at how much I love Panic at the Disco. In fact, their previous album, Pray for the Wicked, was one of my favorite albums of 2018. And before you start trying to criticize me for liking Panic at the Disco, see them live. Brandon Urie is an incredible performer and an incredible singer. And the more you listen to some of the stuff he's done in the past 10 years, the more you realize, man, he is an incredible songwriter and performer. So I stand by that. Here's the problem, though, with Viva Las Vengeance. The best way to describe that album is if Billy Joel in the late 70s teamed up with Cheap Trick to produce an album that essentially was the American version of Queen, it would sound like Viva Las Vengeance. Now, on paper, that sounds kind of fun, but he really went too hard into that concept because not only is there even a few songs that kind of blatantly rip off bands from that era, but he even uses the same production technique to produce these songs, which was a horrible decision because even though there's some songs on this album, like the title track, like Don't Let the Lights Turn Off, there's some great, beside the point, there's some great actual song writing on this album, but the production is so old school and it sounds like crap that it brings it down. The last two albums that Brendan did with Panic at the Disco, it was a really great sounding albums. Like the production was phenomenal. And here it really proved that, you know what, the old ways are not always the best ways. And I really wish that he used actual current technology to record instead of the old school way, because it would have made some of the songs a lot better. This is really an example of production ended up screwing over the songs, which is a shame because there are some songs, and you know what, now it's just killing me, unfortunately. So that might be the most disappointing album for me of 2022. But now ping-ponging it back to you, what other album disappointed you the most this year?
So you criticized me for, you liking Panic at the Disco. I just want to know if they closed the goddamn door. I mean, that's important. You gotta close the goddamn door.
Are you proud of yourself on that one? Like, are you gonna look at yourself in the mirror tonight and be like, yeah, I fucking nailed it?
Maybe.
Are you gonna have high hopes that that's gonna resonate with people listening to this?
No.
And by the way, yeah, I'm gonna look in the mirror of myself and be like, yeah, I made a high hopes pun. Nailed it. I'm proud of myself on that one. But continue.
At least I went to the single. Anyway, so another album for me this year that was kind of on the fence of an okay album and kind of disappointing was Rammstein's latest one, Zeit.
You know, we liked it when we listened to it, but I definitely haven't gone back.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those albums that was okay, but there was just, I don't know, it just lacked some vigor. When you go back and listen to it, like there was not much that you could really hang your hat on and be like, yeah, this is the Rammstein that I love. No, the album didn't do that. It really came up short, and I hope that this is not it for Rammstein, because one more really good album, I think, would seal the career. I don't want to see them go away on this album.
I wasn't initially going to include this on the disappointment bucket because I liked the album. I stand by our review of it. I liked it a lot, but I think what is disappointing about the album I'm about to mention is that the more you read into it, the more you kind of listen, and the more you hear even the band members talk about it, the more you really can't help but think this really was just an album they wanted to get out of their contract. Yeah, I'm talking about Slipknot's The End So Far.
I was actually going to put this on an entirely list of its own, saying albums I'm still confused by.
Yeah, I'm not confused by it. The more and more I listen to it, as much as I enjoy it, it just kind of bums me out that it clearly was just them going, all right, well, we're so close to the finish line with Roadrunner. Screw it. Let's just get this B-side album out so that we can go ahead and start our own label and really do what we want while the iron is hot, which is a shame because any other band, I wouldn't be as like heartbroken by it, but Slipknot's a band that takes their time with albums usually. And it also is they're also a band that creates an event out of the release of a new album.
Well, they created the event this time with the sticker controversy.
Well, that was just a fun and we're talking about how supposedly the label messed up the vinyl sticker with the wrong title. But even just more so, like the build up to each Slipknot album, it's an event. It's an excitement. Even just the reveal of masks is an event. And here I just felt everything was rushed and just kind of half-assed. And that only confirmed, all right, this is just Slipknot going, let's get this out. Let's get this out. This is this is Slipknot's magical mystery tour in a way. They came off of a really creative high with Sgt. Pepper's, and all right, let's just release these songs that we've kind of released, the singles and some new stuff, and just move on to the next thing. And it's a shame because Slipknot's not that kind of band.
Or at least they shouldn't be, but
they shouldn't be, but they were not that kind of band before. So, and hopefully they'll come back once they figure out their new label home, or once they create their own label, they'll come back even stronger than better and show their gratitude for hanging in with them during this period by releasing a new better album.
Now, that's not to say that everybody feels this way, because, well, like I said, I'm in the confusion category of like, what did I listen to with this new album? But there were a lot of people in our comments, and there was one that stuck with me in particular, said that this was their best album since Iowa. And I remember saying in the review that if you are a hardcore Slipknot fan, you're going to love the album. And I think I was 100% justified in that comment.
And it's funny though, because I feel like more so than most of our reviews, there's a lot of fans who also are like kind of with us in that, like, yeah, I kind of am bummed, or I kind of feel like there's some, am I missing something? We could have done a whole episode about this
Maybe we should have.
Well, we had fun reviewing it anyway. What other disappointment of 2022 comes to mind before I share another one that I'm kind of combining with a few things?
Go ahead. I don't really have any others.
So, okay, I'm going to combine these albums because both of these artists have such an enormous and hardcore fan base that will probably, if they listen to this, will come and kill me. So I might as well just do it all in one fell swoop. I'll admit it, I was not really feeling both the new Beyonce album, nor was I really feeling Taylor Swift's new album. I love both artists. I appreciate both artists. I mean, hell, let's go to Beyonce first. But I just felt like Renaissance was lacking oomph. It was lovely music to listen to in the background while you're at a restaurant or club. It was missing the bangers like Crazy in Love, like Single Ladies. Not that every artist needs to continue to release those kind of big hits and songs, but, and I see Matt doing the Single Ladies dance as I'm talking about this. But this has proved my point. No song on Renaissance makes you suddenly just break out dancing like Matt is currently doing right now as I'm talking about Beyonce. This is definitely an album that the hype about the artist is bigger than the actual album itself. And it goes back to why I loved Lizzo's album so much, in that it was a pop dance album that has hooks and memorable stuff in it that I'm constantly humming to myself over and over again. Earworms. Beyonce's album, Renaissance, doesn't have that. Just like how Taylor Swift's new album doesn't have that too. To me, I'm not taking anything away from her talent. She is a phenomenal songwriter. Her lyrics are great, as always. But Midnight's, to me, it just sounds like every indie pop artist that has come out in the past 2 years. I mean, it's funny. Me and my wife have said on past albums of hers that on first listen, her singles don't sound like anything special, but then you suddenly start hearing yourself singing it over and over again. They grow on you real fast. Nothing on this album is growing on me. And nothing she's released in the past 2 years, maybe even 3 years, dare I say, has really grown on me. Again, it's just kind of, I feel like the hype is bigger than the quality of the album itself. And I'm rooting I would love to be more excited about Midnights. I'd love to be more excited about Renaissance, but I kind of felt like, I don't know, overhyped.
If you liked it, you should have put a ring on it.
You've been dying to say that in the past 5 minutes.
You must not know about me.
Oh, now that's a great one. Great job, Matt. That one you can look yourself in the mirror and be proud about.
It's true.
That's some anti-hero shit. Your confused face. Hold on. Your confused face confirms that you don't even know about Taylor Swift's new album, and I love that I know something that you don't. I love it. I also love that we are two middle-aged men talking about Taylor Swift.
Fuck off with the middle-aged comment.
We're middle-aged. Come on. We're basically okay. Fine. 30-something old males.
There you go. I'll take that.
Feel better? Does that make you feel better?
Yes.
Well, I feel like that just was a great way to end the episode. Just in a nutshell, we're old. There's a lot of great music, a lot to still be desired, but a lot to also look forward to in 2023. Matt, I can't believe we've gone through another year together. We survived. We listened to a lot of great music. I can't think of anyone better to be complaining about music with.
Aww.
I know.
Well, thank you.
Mental. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Just putting up with our babble and BS. And also, thank you, Ed and Lucky 13 Beard Co.
So it is the holiday season. So what a better gift to get the person who you love
and
a beard balm or oil. That is bearded, indeed. If you head on over to Lucky 13, the number beardco.com, and you go to the product page, we've got our very own beard balm and oil, which is the Lemmy. It smells absolutely incredible. Bourbon, tobacco, cola, and leather. We're even giving you a chance to get 10% off of your entire order. So whatever you put in your card, in addition to the Lemmy, just use the code at checkout EFP10. That is EFP10, and you're going to get 10% off of your entire order. Lucky 13, the number beardco.com.
And while we hope you get to spend the holidays, the new year with your loved ones, with family, whoever you consider to be family, just also know that if during this time you do feel alone, or if you just need an escape and you just want to listen to two 30-something-year-olds talk about music, well, then we have just what you need on any streaming platform you can imagine. Also, keep connected with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Epic Footnote. We're always here for you, no matter what time of year it is. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for listening to us all year round. And we hope you come back to us in the new year as well. Thanks so much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Love you all.